to introduce Michele. And Michele, I don't know how to pronounce your last name properly. I'm going to let you do that.
It's Schazinski.
Schazinski, there you go. And she manages the Yellowstone Valley Food Hub in Billings. And the Food Hub is a cooperative founded by 11 farmers and ranchers in the Yellowstone Valley, marketing to and feeding their local community. And shortly, we should have on the call Eddie Moore, who until recently managed the Red Paint Creek Trading Post and Pantry in Lodgepole, and navigated the grocery through the pandemic. And lastly, if I can find her, we're going to also have my friend Linny, whose last name I can't remember to save my life, who owns the Camas Organic Market and Bakery in Hot Springs. So Michele, if you'll start us off, we'll look forward to hearing what you have to say from your perspective. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction and thanks for having us on here. So I'm Michele Schazinski, and like Robin said, I'm the general manager of the Yellowstone Valley Food Hub in Billings. And we're a relatively new organization. We've been in the works for a really long time, but only really became officially incorporated in 2019, 2018-19. So our first year has been this kind of crazy year, and really in all respects it has been a really big moment of growth. I think that we were small enough and flexible enough to be able to pivot really quickly to direct to consumer marketing. And so we basically moved all of our sales to direct to consumer, which we were able to do because we didn't have that many accounts in the first place. So really we've been able to establish ourselves a lot, just become more established within the Billings community and increase our number of direct sales with customers. So yeah, I mean, it really has been an interesting year. I think as we look forward, we are trying to gauge how much of that growth will last and how we can really use that momentum to move forward. I think that this has really taught us the value of diversity, of having both, wholesale and retail markets, and being able to adapt to specifically what our community is asking for, which in this case, it was individuals really wanted lower contact delivery of goods, and we were able to do that, and it really benefited us. So as we move forward, I think we want to open up back into the wholesale accounts, but just recognizing how beneficial it was for us to be able to be flexible and to pivot during this time, and also using the kind of public attention that has come from the pandemic to get that momentum and really build a strong foundation, not only for us as an organization, but for the resilience of local food systems and being able to support local producers and getting local food to those people who need it. So really trying to use this last year as a moment to solidify our ground in Billings, which has been kind of a hard market to crack, it seems like. I just came on to the Food Hub in May, so I've been kind of lucky and been here for the growth phase, but I know our producers worked really hard to get to the point where they were. Anyway, so it has been a wild year, and yeah, we look forward to seeing where it goes from here.
I'm curious, Michele, thank you so much. I'm curious about why, what do you think are some of the factors that make the Billings market a hard market to crack?
Yeah, I mean, so being new to Billings also, as of May when I moved here for the job, I'm not entirely sure. I think that we just evidence had kind of shown, the I think the Lucky's in town had gone out of business. There was a local grocery store that like a local food co-op that had gone out of business recently, and we were kind of seeing I think maybe the rhetoric here has to be a little different. And maybe coming at it more from this perspective that I think we've really tried to lean into of supporting Montana economies, supporting ranchers and farmers. We have a lot of meat producers, which is a little unusual for food hubs, but we're in Eastern Montana, so we've kind of leaned into this ranching economy. The specific factors, I mean, I'm honestly not familiar enough with Billings, but I do think it's, a number of factors, but I think maybe the way that it had been being framed and just the evidence that we hadn't been able to get something really well established, I do think that this opportunity, we really have to grab onto this opportunity because of the public attention that we have finally kind of broken through and been able to just reach more people. I think connect with the people that there are people here who want to support local, who want to support sustainable food economies, but it was finding them.
Got it. It's interesting. Yeah, it's okay. Welcome to Montana.
I am from Montana. So I actually am from Whitehall, Montana. So just a few hours west, but Billings area is kind of new.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I noticed, I just want to just acknowledge that both Linny and Eddie are on the call now. So I just wanted to give you guys a chance to say hello or let people know you're here. And then there's this other person I don't recognize, area code 406-210-4077. I'm just, we invite you to introduce yourself, and you could just type, I don't know if you've got access to the chat box, but we'd love to welcome you to the call. And I don't know who you are. Eddie, are you there? I was just going to, Eddie, if you can hear me, Eddie, I'm just curious if you could unmute yourself and maybe share your story about red paint.
Oh, sorry, guys. I had to press *6 and something else and pound or
very good.
Unmute myself. Okay. So, thank you guys for having me. My name is Eddie Moore. I was the manager of the Red Paint Creek Cooperative in Lodgepole for about 18 months and had to leave, unfortunately, a job closer to home. Let's see, I kind of missed everything that was going on with the conversation. But yeah, if you guys could, I guess just fill me in on
you bet.
Going on and whatnot.
You bet. So I'm glad we got this going and we can hear you, and I'm really thrilled. So I started the evening by introducing you as the former manager of the Red Paint Creek Trading Post and Pantry, and that you were the key person who managed the grocery through the pandemic. And we wanted to hear your perspective on what it was like to, for the grocery, for your, the Trading Post and Pantry to go through 2020. How did the disruption to food access impact the Trading Post and your relationships maybe with purveyors or your consumers, your customers, just anything that what was the impact for you guys and how that it maybe informed your plans for 2021 moving forward?
Right, right. So we're located in Lodgepole, Montana, which is, let's, just say it's in the middle of nowhere. It's 80 miles to the nearest Walmart in Havre. I forget how far Malta is, but they have an Albertsons. But basically what happened was our main grocer supplier pretty much just said good luck. When the toilet paper thing happened, everybody started losing it and the toilet paper went down. It was just a slow, I wouldn't even say slow, it was a quick downfall of, okay, aluminum, soups are gone. What else? Cleaning supplies were gone. It was just like they didn't say it in so many words, this old supplier, but they were just like, our bigger stores are where we're focusing on right now for supply. And you smaller guys, you can put in your orders, but you're not guaranteed to get anything. It was almost a really helpless feeling. Now that I think about it and look back on it and stuff, it was really frustrating. I mean, your community would want, Campbell's tomato soup. They would want access to different things. And that's what we're there for, access to healthy foods. And it just wasn't there with our supplier. I mean, meat was few and far between for anything. Like I said, they just basically said good luck. It was a weird partnership. I wasn't there from the beginning. This company was a company that was basically like a cooperative with another company that did the bigger stuff like dog food, bigger cans of soup, bleach, any household items that were bigger than, I guess a baseball. That's who we got our other product from, but they said, good luck. I don't know, you guys can put in for it. And, if you get it, you get it. That's awesome. There was plenty of candy available, but as far as like actual grocery, it was terrible. It was really bad. And then it was just the effort of, okay, where are we going to go next? Who can we reach out to? We're a nonprofit. There's other nonprofits out there. Bonnie Sciletto out of Hopa Mountain, she was very, very, very helpful in finding us things for our food pantry, finding us small grants to apply for. Really being that person, I could be like, okay, I have an issue. I can't get hamburger or I can't get, quality meat. Where can I get it? And she would find me something. She would get me somebody to reach out to, somebody to connect with. By the end of the week, I was getting a couple 100 pounds worth for free. I didn't have to pay for it. It went towards the food pantry. And I mean, it was just very helpful to have somebody like her that was like, what do you guys need? Well, what do you guys need help with? Is it funding? Is it PPE gear? What is it? So, and from there, we had our economic development corporation here on the reservation. We all kind of had a couple meetings where it was our board of directors, myself, and their board of directors, and just basically like, hey, we need to look at elsewhere for grocery. And if we don't have sales, I can't pay our staff. It was getting that bad. It really was that bad for a second. It was, we can't pay our bills. We don't have enough sales, and we don't have sales if we don't have product. So it was really a trying time. But they came through with a big donation that helped us. And then we went with Associated Foods out of Salt Lake. And from there, I mean, it was still iffy, but if I had to put a number on it, like it was probably 80% on the high weeks that we got our product. So we would make a big order, and we'd probably get about 80% of what we ordered, including grocery, canned goods, packaged meat, because we don't have like a butcher station on site. Whereas with our previous supplier, it was maybe 30 to 40%. It was bad. So those connections really helped us, get our fruits, veggies, anything to the community, get our meat, get anything to help us survive. It was tough, man. Looking back at it, not even, it was a lot of days of wondering, okay, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I was going out of town, going to Sam's Club, going to Walmart on the weekends to go get more product, just to buy it retail, bring it back, and try to get like a 5% markup. It was crazy. And by the time, let's see, I would say end of September, everything kind of settled down here and there. But then our reservation got hit pretty hard. So when that happened, our tribal government decided, okay, now we're going to limit your guys' hours. All the stores, everything, we're just going to shut down. So again, the economic side of it, our sales dropped. It was like one of those things where it's like, well, we can't make money if we're not open. Like we have a full store finally, but now we have this other issue. And that's unfortunately when I left, but they're in pretty good hands now, and I help them as much as I can with everything, payroll, recruiting new employees, things like that. But through this whole pandemic, it was crazy, just to put it very simply. It was really nuts.
Wow. How big is your community that the trading post serves?
Fort Belknap, let's see. We got a grant for our senior citizens, and there was 200 households for seniors. In the small community of Lodgepole itself, there was 88 households, 200 total households on the reservation. Let's see, how big is the reservation? I think it's 35 square miles, basically, from north to south, east to west. It's 35 by 35. So, it's a pretty big landscape, and people really do live in the middle of nowhere. We're one of those reservations that has a lot of land, but it's undeveloped, a lot of farmland and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And I was curious, when was it, do you remember anymore when it was that you were able to make that relationship with Associated Foods? Was that like in May?
Right. So the conversation started probably May, excuse me, is when it really got to, okay, we need another supplier. But we ran into an issue because we are on a reservation that they required an upfront cash deposit for product that we would get into the store. So that is where we really had to, get with our economic development corporation and say, hey, this is the kind of money we need. It ended up being like $46,000 that we needed up front just to even get the conversation started, just to get, okay, here's our schedule, here's what we can get you guys at first, things like that. And our first delivery was June 9th. So it took a few months.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else in this group, this conversation here, experienced the same thing. But yeah, I'm extremely thankful for the resources that we had, the people that stepped up and just realized what kind of situation we were in, and put forth money, put forth cleaning supplies, gloves, masks, anything like that. Bonnie, I wish I could hug her whenever I get the chance. You know, she was on the phone with me every week, just hearing my frustrations, hearing my my issues, and just doing whatever she could to help us and support us.
Hi, this is Kate. I live in the same town as Bonnie, and I can vouch for how amazing she is. Um, and was so delighted to watch her supporting you and others like you. I was curious, just to put it in perspective, the $46,000 that the distributor required you to put up front. How many, can you put that in context of like, how is that 2 weeks worth of grocery sales, 2 months worth of grocery sales? Like, how disproportionately huge is that number compared to what you were ordering?
Okay, so when I first got there, we were doing about 4,000 a week on a good week. I would say easily, 3 months easily in sales, and that's if we didn't have any kind of breakdown. We don't have a backup generator. We don't have the infrastructure. Because we are on a reservation, there was no chamber of commerce that went and said, okay, this is going to be industrial land, right? This is for industrial stores or whatever. So it was at least 12 to 14 weeks worth of sales that we had to save and nothing would happen. That not including the taxes that weren't paid, that we were paying on very minimally, but yeah, it was a lot. Had they not been there to give us that money, we would have been struggling for sure.
Yeah, and their rationale was just they do that to all their new customers. You have to like sign some kind of a contract that you'll buy for at least 6 months, and they want the money in advance, or what? Did they give you any reasonable rationale for that?
Yes and no. I don't want to get into the politics of it, but
Yeah.
it's basically because we're on a reservation and they don't have the right, or that a lot of companies are under the understanding that if they went into tribal court, nothing would happen. Like, things wouldn't shake out in their favor. It's just foreign to them. So instead of trying to, I guess, reason or get it something in writing, they just require, okay, here is, I think it's, let's see. So it was a 6,000 a week minimum that you have to meet with Associated Foods. That's your order. So 6 times 8 weeks, basically 2 months worth of orders that they want a down payment for to ensure that, hey, this relationship is going to be for real, I guess. Mm-hmm. I actually manage the tribal courts program now. And in hindsight, it kind of ticks me off because I think it was unfair and almost even a form of a prejudice towards, businesses on the reservation. I mean, come on, man. We're all trying to make money here. What's to say you can't go to tribal court? All you got to do is have an attorney that passes the tribal bar exam. We administer those exams. It's not rocket science. It's not like the state bar exam. I mean, things can be done, but they didn't really try that route at all. It was just like, okay, no, we want to deposit $48,000 before we can even get to step 2.
Wow. Well,
I have a question, Eddie. So, is this pretty common across Indian country? Do you think, in the more remote reservations, where this kind of cost of entry is really steep?
That was a question that I had with a store out of Riverton, I believe, in Wyoming. They had a deposit too, but I mean, it wasn't anything like ours, the 48,000. So I'm not sure if it's what they do with everybody. but I know that's, that's just what we had to do. I reached out to a different supplier out of, where were they from? They're a tribal cooperative that do all their own grocery stores out of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Unfortunately, they just don't go that far west, so we could be a part of their co-op. Or else I would have went with them. They didn't require a down payment at all, but I believe their product came out of Minneapolis.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
I see a whole new distribution network waiting to be birthed.
Right.
That's what Arrow's all about.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
So, but I hear one of the constraints for you, I guess, is that, on the Arrow crowd, we'd love to find ways to stock the store with fresh vegetables and grains and local meats, but a lot of your customers still have other things that they want that are kind of from the older, the more traditional conventional stores. So you have to, that's a dance with your community, I guess, probably.
It is. They have a lot of ceremonies in Lodgepole. That's kind of like our cultural hub. So things that you need for ceremonies, tobacco, cloth, you offer cloth as kind of a pledge for the certain, I guess, promises that you make in ceremony. And then again, there's farmers and ranchers. So, I mean, they wanted, chainsaw oil. They wanted fence posts. They wanted, what else? Kind of like chicken wire and stuff like that. It was hard to please everybody. You can't do that, but I mean, you could try, I guess.
I guess for some of that, they drive to Havre, I guess. Huh?
Right. And that was the whole idea, is to try to keep everything local.
Mm-hmm.
This is Kate again, and I was just curious, I know Quality Foods Distributing, which is a Montana-based, out of Bozeman, distributing company, way smaller, tend to carry mostly specialty items and a lot of Montana goods. Did they ever make a stop by Red Paint? Or I know they were headed east, but I don't know all their stops.
What was the name again? Quality Food?
Yeah, Quality Foods Distributing.
Oh, wow. No, I haven't heard that name.
No worries. I was just curious. They had a couple come through, but anyway. And then do you know of any of the tribes who are trying to start up their own distribution company? Or is it mostly catch as catch can right now? I know there's talk of meat processing plants as well as, grocery stores in some of these communities, but have you heard talk of a distribution company?
No, that's actually something, after a while where we're just like, here's an opportunity. We got to try to do something like that. I know the Rocky Boy Reservation was kind of faced with the same dilemma. We went through the same supplier, Core-Mark. If there's anybody here from Core-Mark, I apologize, but it was a shit show. I mean, it wasn't anything helpful for us little guys. But they were going through the same exact situation we were with. There's no meat, there's no bacon, there's no eggs, your basic basket goods. We didn't have any of that. So what should we do to remedy this? And it was just like a bunch of ideas, but it's like, okay, who's got the working capital? Who knows who? Do we have trucks? I mean, there was those conversations, but they didn't get really too far after that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a complicated business with pretty tight margins if you really look at the costs. So
very confusing when you get into your shipping prices, I think it's 5.9% of the total. And then, I mean, Associated Foods has it down to, you're paying for a little bit of everything that they do. Your frozen truck, that comes at a little different price. Your general merchandise is a little different as well. It's, it's really I guess it comes down to a science for those guys.
Yeah, imagine it does.
Hey Eddie, this is Michelle at the Yellowstone Valley Food Hub. I was just curious where you guys had been sourcing prior to the pandemic. Who you were working with then.
With Cormark.
Cormark? Okay.
Yeah, and they're more of a, how would you say, if you're like a little camping store, at the base of a mountain, they have little stuff for camping. If you want to fill up your camper with small little, I guess, warm up foods, that's what they do.
Okay.
We're glad to hear that things are balancing out for the moment, stabilizing.
Robin, I just wanted to chime in quickly. I had the opportunity to be on some calls with the governor's office, the food and ag calls that you're now taking. And early on, there were conversations with Sue Taylor at Native American Development Corp about developing a cooperative grocery distribution network that would hit all the reservation towns in Montana and do like a rural small town route in between. And so I know they were working with Tracy at the Cooperative Development Center, MCDC, and I think they were looking at feasibility. So I don't know where it's gone, but it sounded like such a promising concept. And after hearing Eddie's story, can certainly, I just feel like they deserve all the partnership and money to make that work if they could.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Well, let's look into where that is. I can check in with Tracy and see where that is right now. Yeah. I wanted to give some time to Linny, who's here. Linny, are you able to unmute and check in?
I think that can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. I had a little bit of problems with the computer.
Yeah, sure.
But I've got it now, I think.
Awesome.
So I have Camas Organic Market. It's in Hot Springs, Montana, which is like the northwest corner, if people don't know. And, I'm in a town of 500 people, but this is my 9th year in business. And so I had a fairly well-established food stream coming in. The distributors that I work with are UNFI, which is United Independent Food Industry. Natural Food, United Natural Food Industry, and KeHE, which is another giant distributor. So I was able to, obviously I didn't get things like toilet paper and PPP supplies, and I'm still having trouble getting, gloves for the cafe. But it was a super hard year, and it continues to be full of all kinds of challenges. The cafe is pretty well closed down. I've done a lot of rearranging of things in the back, and everything is to go. The people in the town were very upset about that. And because it is such a quirky little place that I live in, you know, I have to kind of deal with extremes with people who don't believe that the pandemic exists, and other people who, you know, are won't come into the store because, you know, they're scared of getting sick. And so I have to walk this very thin line of trying to make everybody happy. A lot like, you know, what Eddie was saying, that you just can't make everybody happy. But as far as what I've learned is that I think the most important thing is to use the resources that we have in Montana, and to connect with the farmers that are growing things and the ranchers that have the food here, and to try and get people to participate in the growing and selling of food for, you know, a local food stream. And that is that was really driven home. And obviously, you know, we're not going to be able to grow coffee and toilet paper, but we can get by with a lot of the stuff that is grown here. And I have reached out to Montana Grains and Flours in Fort Benton. And now, you know, I actually have established a connection to where, you know, they'll deliver close by. And I'm getting my flours for my breads. And I have joined forces with a farmer who is getting grains and food for animals that he's able to sell, you know, from his farm. And so that's been good. So there's been some good connections that are made, but I think that places, you know, having this Arrow meeting and things like that is a really good way to start making more connections. And I think that Montana is so big, the more connections that we can make, the better off everyone is going to be. So I guess that's really all I want to say here.
Wow. Are you able to keep the kitchen open through the takeout sale?
You know, the kitchen and the store are all connected, and the store is kind of supporting it. The problem with the kitchen is that the labor costs are really high. And it was originally, you know, started so that we would have less waste from the store. And because there's a need, you know, for people coming to soak, they don't want to go and cook. They want, you know, things to eat. And people coming to soak also are people more interested in health, or they're doing a cleanse, or they're not feeling well, or they have special dietary needs. And so we've tried to, you know, tap into all of that, and once again, try and make everybody happy. So the kitchen is limping along, I should say. And we're still making a lot of bread. We're pretty much down to soup and salad and sandwiches right now. On the weekends, we'll have some specials, but, you know, we have a very limited menu. And then I've closed off the place where people can sit, because it just doesn't seem safe to have people, you know, sitting and talking. And they really need to get their food and then, you know, go find some social distancing type place to eat. So I'm looking forward to that being over, but it doesn't feel like it's anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Linny, this is Max Milton from Helena. How's Hot Springs community doing right now with all the shut down?
Well, there has been a lot less tourists. There's as always, diehard, people that are going to come and soak no matter what. And they come. They tend to, stay for a few days, and fortunately, there hasn't been some sort of big event in any of the hot springs where everyone got sick. So, hot springs is probably most people who live here are here because they like to social distance. And so in the beginning, there really wasn't that much of a change, only that I couldn't get the food that I'm, used to getting. And I still have trouble getting, some weird things. Like right now it's split peas. Nobody has split peas. And I don't know what happened to all the split peas, or if they were grown in China, or, what is going on and why it's, split peas. But for a while it was rice, and no, I couldn't get any rice. But, that sort of balanced out. But, Hot Springs will always be, the quirky place that it is. And a lot of people here are retired or on disabilities, and so they just want it to pretty much stop in time and not grow, or, they definitely don't want the price of food to go up because everyone's on limited income. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Linny, this is Kate.
Yeah.
And this is Kate again, and I'm down in the Gallatin Valley, and I'm just curious because there's anti-maskers everywhere. In a place like where you are, is the unpleasantness at least tempered by the fact that everybody knows each other to a certain degree? Because we've definitely had some pretty ugly incidents in restaurants and retail around here that it's really hard on the service staff.
Yeah. It does help that people know each other, but the truth of the matter is that just because you know someone doesn't mean that they haven't been exposed. And the way that I'm handling it in my store is that if people have some sort of medical condition, or they can't wear a mask for some reason, I'm not hunting them down and throwing them out of the store. I'm pretty much just, I tell them, to stay away from everyone else and to do their shopping and leave. And I've gotten some flack for that. There are some people, that won't come into the store. I do curbside for those people, if they're worried that they might run into someone who doesn't have a mask on. But most of my employees I bought face shields for. And the people that are working in the back, if they're not front facing, I don't make them wear the face shields. But the people, I have, the plexiglass up, and if you're going to, go and directly relate to the customers, then, we wear the face shields. But yeah, it's been really tricky. I know that in larger places, you have to really police everyone, and like in Missoula and Kalispell, no one even thinks about walking in without a mask on. But here they feel like, that it's their town, and I guess they can feel like they do what they want. I don't know, but I haven't been, very hard about forcing people to wear them.
Mm-hmm. It's a tricky thing, as you say.
Yeah. So
Thanks, Linny.
it's hard. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder about everyone else. Are you enforcing the mask mandate in your stores?
Michele or Eddie?
Well, our model is pretty fortunate in this, in that we don't have a retail space. So we are at one drop, people are passing through in cars. At another, they come in real quick and grab it and leave. And luckily, it hasn't been too much of a problem for that. We don't have people coming in and shopping around for a lot of time. But as an organization, I think in Billings, it's similar. We're a mix of folks with a mix of views, and it has been, I think, a really good area to test our ability as a cooperative to work cooperatively and to, discuss what we think our best bet is as far as our own, like our processes at aggregation, and then vote on them as a co-op, and then enforce those things as enforce those policies and procedures as a co-op. So I'm trying to see it as a growing moment for us as a group of producers working together. But luckily, we haven't had to work with it so much on the customer facing end.
Yeah, and I don't, this is Katie, and I don't actually work with retail, but I have chatted with folks at Town and Country here in Bozeman, and the staff was pretty interesting. They're like, yeah, it's the customers that get mad at the other customers if there's someone who's not wearing a mask, and sometimes people skate through, and sometimes it becomes a scene. It's definitely, it's tough in this community right now, for sure.
Eddie, what's it like in your community? Are people accepting of masks, or does that cause any friction?
Oh, tons of friction. Our tribal government basically has a mask mandate. They abide by all the CDC requirements. So if you go into any kind of store or public building on the reservation, you have to have a mask. You have to check in. Of course, the hand sanitizer, 6 feet. It's very strict. So when it came to our store, we had to implement the tribe's plans because they are the governing body. And we could only have, I think it was half capacity at first, it was a fairly big building. But if anybody came in without a mask, it was like, it was crazy. People were just like, you got to get out, you got to get out. And then another thing was no children. No children under the age of 12 could be in the stores. They really took it to another level. I thought at first it was kind of like, whoa, this is too much, but I guess I understand. We did get a pretty big outbreak in our community, so we did what we could to not do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are people pretty compliant with the mandate in Lodgeville?
Yeah, they're compliant. After a while, they were just like, Eddie's gonna yell at me again. So it was just stopping people at the door, literally outside at the door, and saying you can't come in. But thankfully, we had it was Bonnie. They donated, I think it was at first it was like 10,000 masks, which we could have monopolized on. We could have charged people, $1 every time for a mask and stuff like that. But I didn't believe in that. I mean, we're a nonprofit. We're there for the people. We want them to come in and shop. So we're going to give everybody a mask. So every time somebody came in, we just gave them a mask.
Wow, that's great. So I live in the Flathead Valley, and in the Whitefish area, people are pretty compliant But if you go down to Kalispell, which is not very far away, they're far less compliant. You know, it's just interesting to me. It's 10 miles difference and just a different attitude. And so it causes more friction because of the discrepancy. Some people will wear the masks and some won't. Yeah. I do just want to acknowledge the fact that it's almost 6:30 and I told everybody this would only go till 6:15. So this happens every night. And I'm happy for us to continue, and I will definitely stay here till 7. And I do want to create a space for folks to graciously leave the call if they feel complete and not feel they have to stay on. So I'm just acknowledging that, you know, we've gone past our allotted time, and this is a rich conversation. I certainly am enjoying it, and I'm happy to stay if others would like to stay, but please feel that it's okay to leave if you are complete.
Thanks so much for arranging this, and for Eddie, Linny, and Michele for joining us. I learned a lot and appreciate your time.
You bet.
Ditto, ditto. I'm going to have to duck off, but thank you all very much.
Thanks for joining, Kate.
I can hang around for a few minutes if people want to chat. Yeah, Michele, I've known your dad for a long time.
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't know if that was good to bring that up or not.
No, it's been really fun to get kind of into his world more, because people see the last name and they know it.
You do. How'd you end up at what was your path to get to the food hub?
Yeah, I mean, I have been interested in agriculture and food systems since college, but I actually was an agricultural extension agent in Peace Corps in Paraguay. So I think that kind of plugged me more into this kind of bigger food systems thought. And then, yeah, I got back and was looking for a job, and actually got a different job in Bozeman, and they got laid off, and it was perfect timing because I think that was right around the time the food hub realized, like, hey, we could use a general manager right now. And so yeah, it's kind of good timing.
How did you guys snare Michele? I was asking Tom how they snared you.
Hey, we lucked out. It was just perfect timing, but we couldn't be happier.
Thank you, Tom.
Good.
It really did come on right at the height of everything that was happening in the pandemic, and jumped right in really well. But it was I don't know what would have happened if we didn't have her, because we were just kind of getting by like member volunteer driven up to that point.
I can remember that. Yeah.
As things got crazy, luckily she came on.
Wow.
Which it is still an impressive amount of member volunteer time. And I am
fairly financially
crazy grateful for that.
Can I ask if you're fairly financially stable right now?
We're getting there. You know, I mean, we're still even a new organization in any time, a new food hub, you know, I think it does take a while for things to become viable. But I would say we're certainly on a good track as far as the business plan that we had in place. And yeah, I think we're moving in that direction, but it'll likely be, you know, a couple years as was expected.
Well, that's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little concerned. I was aware. I went to one of the fundraisers last year and was when you're just kind of getting going, and you know, kind of had my fingers crossed.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I think the flexibility when all the pandemic stuff started happening to just lean in and kind of roll with it. I think right now we're kind of playing catch up. I was telling Robin this a little bit before the call, but I think we're playing catch up as far as infrastructure and kind of organizational structure, where, you know, we were kind of got started and we're growing, and then it was like, whoo, sales, and we just leaned into the sales, but now we got to like actually create the stability for that to continue long term, and then also try to maintain the customers that we've gained and maybe get some new ones.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have lots of thoughts.
I have a question. Linny, are you still there?
Yes.
I was curious, has Hot Springs had any kind of been a hot spot in any way?
You know, there have been people here that have gotten sick. There hasn't been any people that got really sick. There hasn't been any people that I've heard of going to hospitals or dying. It took a really long time for for COVID to get here, and people were kind of more prepared because it wasn't, you know, the first place. But definitely, you know, the real estate agent has had it, and other people, you know, have come in and said they'd had it and gotten over it. And for all the people that get over it, then all the anti-maskers are like, see, it's no big deal. But yeah, we've been pretty lucky. I think that we're pretty much off the beaten track. So that makes a big difference. I know that Bozeman area got hit early and hard with all the people coming in. I figured it was people coming to their summer homes, you know, in the, you know, early to get away from the pandemic and brought it with them.
I think early on it came from the outside, but then in the summer, a lot of it was the bars and the gatherings. Had a very high number of younger people, you know, in the 25 to 40 age range getting positive. Particularly around the age of 30.
And were they getting really sick?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Although Bozeman did have a high number of people sick in the beginning. Yeah, there's a lot I don't understand about this yet. This is not the subject of this call. What I'm really interested in after this call, though, is, you know, part of the ongoing thread in this Aero Expo this year is, this is my take, is it's kind of like the emerging infrastructure, or the emerging infrastructure that wants to come into being, because all you guys, I keep meeting on these calls, people in these little far-ranging pieces of the puzzle, and you all have, you know, everybody's kind of been, you know, surviving, but I think we're identifying what's missing for infrastructure. I mean, you know, the whole Associated Foods things is just outrage. But I'm interested, Linny, that you work with, you know, the distributors you work with, KE and NF. I can never remember how to say it.
UNFI, yeah. UNFI.
I'm on the board of Timeless Seeds, the lentil pulse business. We really struggle with whether to go with UNFI as a distributor, because they are not easy to play with on the producer side. They take they actually make you, if you don't meet certain targets, they make you pay them back. So they can get you in a lot more places, but we've been really wary to go with them. But I can see how, I know when I was in your store, my wife and I were up there, trying to think when it was. It might have been a year ago, with a friend that was looking at a house there, and we soaked, and we came in one day and had lunch and you know, bought some things. And I know you had Timeless Seeds lentils. You had lots of great products. I was really impressed, and maybe you need UNFI and KE to be able to do that. I'm glad you can do it.
No, I don't get the Timeless Seeds from UNFI and KE.
No, I know you don't, but I know that. But the fact that you use those distributors is interesting to me. I didn't know how far their reach in Montana was, so it's interesting to hear that they come to you up there. And,
well, in the beginning, UNFI was the only distributor that would come here.
Wow.
And they had their beginnings with Mountain People Foods years ago.
Right.
And their rep for this area was one of the people that had started Mountain Foods, named Michael McElby.
Mhm.
Everyone called him Mags. I don't know if you guys know him. He's famous around Montana though.
Yeah.
And then it was through an organization called Independent Natural Food Retailers Association, or INFRA, that we hooked up with KeHE. And in the beginning, KeHE wouldn't come here, but once I became an INFRA member, and then INFRA made a deal with them,
Mhm.
then they, now they come through Montana, and their warehouse is in Portland, and my store is the driver's first stop. So
Ah,
he drives
wow.
from Portland all the way to Hot Springs, and then I think he goes all the way to Billings before he goes back to Portland.
He's the Montana truck, huh?
Yeah. So I think that this is where Timeless Seeds and other small organizations, that if we had a distribution more locally, I don't know how many seeds Timeless Seeds can grow, but
Well,
UNFI.
we got a surplus right now. We had a good summer. But do you get Timeless from direct, or do you get them from Western Growers Co-op, or?
Mostly I get them from Western Growers Co-op.
Okay,
I
yeah.
have one farmer here that goes over there once a year, and he'll get me an order.
Okay.
And then I get my Kamut grain I get it from Fort Benton at Montana Flour and Grain.
Get it direct.
They're not Timeless Seeds, but that Kamut is grown here.
Right.
And
yeah.
I was having to get it from Azure Standard in Oregon.
Really?
That would be a good place for Timeless Seeds, to work with. Azure, Azure.
Okay. Huh. I'm on a call with the board tomorrow. I'll ask David if he knows about them.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's
I think we have pretty good distribution in Oregon, but I'll find out more about that.
Yeah, they do more buying clubs. It's a farmer family that became a distributor, and they have a nice mill that they bought, Unifine Mill,
Really?
and so they process a lot of their own stuff, and then now they're also distributing a lot of natural food stuff.
Sure.
You can look them up online. It's azurestandard.com, and
AZURE.
see what they have. Huh?
AZURE.
Bye, guys. Z is in zebra, URE.
Okay, great. Yeah, good, cool.
Yeah.
Good to know. You never know what's going to happen when you walk into a happy hour.
Yeah.
Max, well, I'm going to have to run off, but Max, I did want to say that I'm glad that you're thinking about that big picture stuff too during these conversations. And I think I might be seeing the same kind of like gap or something that's missing, like some sort of local Montana only distribution. Seems like an interesting idea. I don't know
It's been talked about for years, but it's somebody to get a person with a head for those numbers that can pull it off.
They're really tight, I think, is what ultimately it means. And maybe it's a nonprofit distributor, or maybe it's a co-op distributor, or something funny like that. But the only one statewide that I know of, and I'm interested what everybody else knows, is QFD. That's really doing like statewide distribution with
in Bozeman, right?
Yeah, and it's not only Montana products, but I think it's mostly Montana products that they carry.
Yeah,
I mean, there's Valley and there's a few other ones, but I mean, it would be like that. And QFD, I don't know much about them. I don't know if they've scaled up or if they've stayed kind of the same over a long period.
They are growing a little bit. We had a field trip to their place at the expo last year.
Yeah, I
And,
was there.
they actually are just starting to expand further afield because they have a pretty good market in the Bozeman area. But I kind of wondered what Linny, when these truck comes out from Washington, what could we send back on the truck in the other direction? And get some
Yeah,
people.
I think that Azure does pick up the kamut grain and send it back.
Okay, good.
Because I for years I got that kamut from them, and then this year they ran out of it, and I had to go over to Fort Benton. But yeah, they haul stuff back, and timeless seeds would be a great product.
Yeah, it'd be
It would
perfect.
fit
Yeah,
right in.
it really would. Yeah, that's really interesting.
I know that on the High Line, or at least on Route 2, which goes through the High Line, the Cisco truck does that route, and producers and purveyors, use Cisco to transmit goods along that line. And there was some issue, I don't know what it is, with QFD being able to do that effectively or at a cost-effective way for small quantities.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that's coming out of this Expo Conversation series is, and it builds on these, when the COVID hit, all the food access organizations in the state got together on these bi-weekly food access, what we call food access calls. And we're going to translate that into a series of conversations to kind of fill our knowledge gaps in certain areas. And one of them is this distribution infrastructure, like to understand, why is it that, say, QFD only goes A, B, C, and D, and what are the cost margins, so that we can help see if we can find, tease out what the issues are. Yeah, because this is a big issue. It was just so painful to listen to Eddie. Yeah.
Well,
I didn't quite understand all the money that he had to put out before he got food. Is that right?
Yeah, they made him put down basically it was a 4-month deposit on sales.
Well, and a pretty high monthly requirement, which was beyond really where they were at, which, I mean, we can slip over to the food equity, racism work, you guys, equity work that you guys, we had a session a few days ago to look at that one. But, it's going to take me a while to get his name, and I'm embarrassed, but Loga over in
Loga Fixico, F-I-X-I-C-O.
So he's talking about re-establishing the tribal trade networks, which was historically the tribes all met in centralized places and traded things. And part of the food sovereignty work on the reservations is reestablishing those networks, if I understood him right. And that could be a place where this distribution to those reservation towns could maybe get started, maybe. And that I would.
Yeah,
I just want to say one last thing. Given what's going on in the country around looking at our legacy of racism, there might be grant money for something like that. That people that are looking to try to make amends and help break into some new territory there. So something to think about down the road, maybe.
Yeah. I'm on the Flathead Indian Reservation, and I get their Charcusta news, and they always are talking about food sovereignty and what that means. But there's a huge high rate of diabetes, and they don't have the food that they the food that they want to eat is not really the food that they should eat for their, the food that they traditionally ate is not fried rice.
Right. Yeah.
But so it's an education that has to start when they're kids again, to go back to the traditional foods that they ate, which was meat and berries and kind of the paleo diet.
Well, that was so interesting about that film, the Gather film. I don't know, Lenny, have you seen that?
No,
It's about it's about 3 stories of different tribal groups kind of re-establishing their talking about food sovereignty and their traditional foods. And Arrow is offering it through the end of the week or something.
Yeah.
There's a link to it.
I'm putting I don't know if you can see our chat box, but if you just go to the Arrow site, aeromt.org, and scroll down to go to the expo page and scroll to the bottom under movie nights. There will be, you can register to watch it for free until I think the 13th is the last date.
Oh, nice. I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's a great film. It's worth the time.
I can see, and I can see this developing in Montana over the next 5-6 years. I think that's going to be something that will start happening here. I think it's really good timing for that kind of thing to happen locally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of lessons that we will look back and be glad that we learned when this is all over. And right now they're still very hard, but I think that in the end, we'll be a much stronger place for having had this pandemic exercise.
Yeah, I agree.
Hope so.
Yeah. All right, you guys, I have really enjoyed this, but I need to close up the store, so I'm going to sign off.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Linny.
Thank you, Robin, for calling me and asking me. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I learned a lot, so I'm glad that I did this.
Oh, good. I don't know if you'll be there, but I hope to come down on Saturday and soak.
Yeah, I'll be here Saturday.
Okay, great.
All right, we'll see you then.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Thank you so much, Michele.
Yeah, I think I gotta go as well. So
Great talking to you guys.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Thanks,
evening.
all.
Good to see everybody.